2, 1.
We take a look at all of the breaking news on the Kavanaugh allegations, and there is a lot of it. The media humiliate themselves, as per our usual routine every single day here. And we take a look at the funniest story of the year. It is astonishingly good. I'm Ben Shapiro. This is The Ben Shapiro Show. I stepped away for the final Jewish holidays, guys. That was the last ones of the year. Okay, so now we're safe. We're good now. Okay, the last couple days, first of all, I will say, this was the best part of the Jewish holidays. It was Simchat Torah. I know you want to get to the news, but I'm just going to ramble on for a while about Judaism. But in any case, it was partying with the Torah. It was really great. My kids really enjoyed it. And now I am refreshed, and I come back, and the news cycle is just rich and replete with joy. And I will bring you all of that. First, I want to mention, we really appreciate you tuning in and sharing the podcast with all of your friends. If you enjoy what we do, please subscribe to The Ben Shapiro Show on iTunes. And while you're there, leave us a 5-star rating. No but firsts. If you like the show, just do it. It takes a second. It really helps us out. Those ratings on iTunes help actually elevate the ratings on iTunes overall. So make sure that you leave a 5-star review for us. If you don't like the show and you want to leave us a 1-star rating, well, then don't bother doing it. You know, you got better things to do today. Just leave us 5 stars because, let's face it, that's all we really deserve. And now, but first, let's talk about your tooth health. So the reality is that you are lying to your dentist on a routine basis, right? You go in there, your dentist says, how often do you brush? You're like, 8 times a day. Every time I breathe, I brush my teeth. Like, well, how often do you floss? Like, I haven't stopped flossing. You see this in my mouth right here? Piece of floss. Well, you're lying to your dentist, and we all know you're lying to your dentist, and that's why you ought to be using Quip instead. Quip is the best electric toothbrush on the market. It's a fraction of the cost of bulkier brushes while still packing just the right amount of vibration to help clean your teeth. Quip's built-in timer helps you clean for the dentist's recommended 2 minutes with guiding pulses that remind you when to switch sides. Next, Quip's subscription plans are for your health, not just convenience. They deliver new brush heads on a dentist-recommended schedule every 3 months for just $5, including free shipping worldwide. Finally, everyone loves Quip. They were on Oprah's O list. They were named one of Time's best inventions, and they are the first subscription electric toothbrush accepted by the American Dental Association. That is for a reason. It is awesome stuff. Quip starts at just $25. If you go to getquip.com/Shapiro right now, you get your first refill pack free with a Quip electric toothbrush. Again, first refill pack free at getquip.com/Shapiro. That's getquip.com/Shapiro. So with the news cycle like this, I will say it is very difficult to take off a couple of days and then jump right back into the news cycle. I jumped back into the news cycle yesterday, last night, to find that we are apparently just a couple of days away from the actual vote on Brett Kavanaugh. That's what Mitch McConnell said this morning. The Senate Majority Leader says we will be voting on Kavanaugh in the full Senate by the end of the week. The FBI report is expected to wrap today or tomorrow at the very latest. And the FBI is basically saying we've got nothing, right? We've come up with shocker. They've come up with nothing new. Now, that doesn't mean the Democrats are going to accept the FBI report. Of course not. An allegation about a Republican is tantamount to the allegation being true, according to folks on the left, which we'll get to in just a second. According to the Wall Street Journal, though, people familiar with the process said on Tuesday that the FBI investigation into the allegations of sexual misconduct against Judge Kavanaugh could wrap up very soon, well ahead of the end-of-week deadline, which we hope for and pray for so that we don't have to spend this weekend covering breaking news again. GOP aides on the Hill and another person familiar with the process said they were expecting the Bureau to conclude its report as late Tuesday or early Wednesday. Agents had interviewed at least 4 people as of Tuesday in the background investigation of Judge Kavanaugh. The White House had given the Bureau until Friday to wrap up the probe. Senators will be shown the FBI's findings. It's not clear what exactly will be made public at any point. Suffice it to say, it's not expected that anything groundbreaking will happen here. And there's a reason that Mitch McConnell is going off on the Democrats over all of this. The Senate Majority Leader, he comes forward. He says, listen, all of this was a stall tactic. All of this was a delay tactic. Democrats who had no intention of voting for Brett Kavanaugh in the first place are suddenly acting all outraged that the FBI investigation is wrapping too soon, when they knew it would wrap that soon because the FBI investigation actually has less investigative power than the Senate Judiciary Committee. They can't subpoena documents. They can't subpoena witnesses. It's not a criminal investigation. So that means they can go and ask people to talk to them. And they talk to the people they can talk to. But Democrats are whining anyway. Here's Mitch McConnell saying, listen, we're not going to hold this sucker up any longer. We're done here.
These statements remind us Democrats may be trying to move the goalposts every 5 minutes, but their goal has not moved an inch. They will not be satisfied unless they have brought down Judge Kavanaugh's nomination.
And you can tell Mitch McConnell, I mean, that is Cocaine Mitch amped up right there. I mean, that's seriously what Mitch McConnell looks like when he is angry and amped up. Not a joke. Okay, and there's a reason Republicans are unified on this one, and it's because this feels like a witch hunt. This feels as though the Democrats are fully intent on destroying a good man simply for the sake of delaying a Supreme Court nomination. And the Democrats, I will say, there are certain times in American politics that are very difficult to watch. This is one of those times because things are so ugly and so acrimonious and so nasty right now that you find yourself fulminating about it even when you don't want to think about politics. The idea that somebody can be railroaded on one allegation with no corroborative evidence, and as we will see, a lot of evidence that cuts the other way, and that this is supposed to finish people's lives. If you're a good person, you should be thinking twice about whether this is the society that you actually want to live in. Do you want the possibility that someone can come forward with an allegation against you at any time and destroy you? Good people will not go into American public life. They won't. Really, they won't. A lot of folks ask me if I ever want to run for office. I will tell you this, 10 years ago, I was much more interested in running for office than I am now. And one of the reasons is because the way people are treated when they run for office or are on the judiciary or are in good stead making policy, that is not something you want to put your family through. Even if you're as clean as the driven snow, it's not something you want to put your family through. It's also, by the same token, while it's difficult to watch all of this, it's also clarifying. And the idea that the veil is being stripped back and you're seeing people for who they are. One of the people who we saw who he was over the last several days, and I had to comment on this because I missed the opportunity to on Monday, was James Comey. So James Comey, who is touted as the most honest man in American politics, he lived for a higher loyalty, right? He's a higher loyalty, James Comey, the FBI director that President Trump fired. And President Trump called him a grandstander at the time. And I said President Trump was right to call him a grandstander and should have fired him immediately upon taking office. Well, James Comey in the New York Times had a piece earlier this week, and I want to read you some of the piece because it sets the baseline for where Democrats and where folks on the left were going with Kavanaugh, and now it turns out that none of this is going to come true. So James Comey had a piece earlier this week, and it was called "The FBI Can Do This." And so the FBI is back in the middle of it. When we were handed the Hillary Clinton email investigation in 2015, the Bureau's deputy director said to me, "You know you are totally screwed, right?" He meant that in a viciously polarized political environment, one side was sure to be furious with the outcome. Sure enough, I saw a tweet declaring me a political hack, although the author added tongue-in-cheek, "I just can't figure out which side." And those were the good old days. President Trump's decision to order a one-week investigation into sexual assault allegations against Brett Kavanaugh, his Supreme Court nominee, comes in a time of almost indescribable pain and anger, lies, and attacks. And he goes on, talks about how terrible the president of the United States is, and then finally he gets to Brett Kavanaugh. And he suggests that the time-bound nature of the FBI investigation is really bad. Because, of course, Democrats, folks on the left, they don't want Kavanaugh nominated. The whole goal of this investigation, the whole goal of Democratic tactics here is to stall beyond the election. That's all they want. Now, it turns out this is backfiring radically. I will get to the polls in just a minute. Republicans have not been as unified and motivated since the 2016 election and probably since 2010. It's been a long time since I've seen Republicans this motivated, this unified, and this ready to go to the polls. It's pretty astonishing. But here's what James Comey says. He says, "The FBI is now being asked to investigate on a 7-day clock sexual assaults that the president says never happened, that some senators have decried as a sham cooked up to derail a Supreme Court nominee, and that other senators believe beyond all doubt were committed by the nominee. If truth were the only goal, there would be no clock, and the investigation wouldn't have been sought after the Senate Judiciary Committee already endorsed the nominee. Instead, it seems the Republican goal is to be able to say there was an investigation and it didn't change their view, while the Democrats hope for incriminating evidence to derail the nominee." Well, no, the Republicans didn't ask for an FBI investigation because there had already been 6 FBI background checks of Brett Kavanaugh. None of them had raised anything. And the Senate Judiciary Committee, as mentioned, has more investigative power than the FBI. They went ahead with this because Jeff Flake felt that maybe this would make some of the senators sitting on the fence a little bit more comfortable. But James Comey continues. He says, although the process is deeply flawed and apparently designed to thwart the fact-gathering process, the FBI is up for this. It's not as hard as Republicans hope it will be. FBI agents are experts at interviewing people and quickly dispatching leads to their colleagues around the world to follow with additional interviews. Unless limited in some way by the Trump administration, they can speak to scores of people in a few days if necessary. They will confront people with testimony and other accounts, testing them, pushing them in a professional way. Agents have much better nonsense detectors than partisans because they aren't starting with a conclusion. This is the best part. Yes, the alleged incident occurred 36 years ago, but FBI agents know time has very little to do with memory. Okay, this is the former FBI director saying that time has very little to do with memory. That is an insane statement. That is insane. Scientific evidence proves that memory has nearly everything to do with time. That the further something is in the past, the worse you remember it. You may think you remember something clearly. The truth is you probably don't. I love this from James Comey. He says, FBI agents know every married person remembers the weather on their wedding day, no matter how long ago. Significance drives memory. They also know that little lies point to bigger lies. They know that obvious lies by the nominee about the meaning of words in a yearbook are a flashing signal to dig deeper. So James Comey already condemning Kavanaugh as a liar, even though Kavanaugh actually hadn't lied about anything, and there's no proof Kavanaugh lied about anything. We'll get to that in just a second. But I love this comment. He says that FBI agents know that time has little to do with memory and that significance drives memory because everybody remembers what the weather was like on their wedding day. First of all, the reason you remember anything on your wedding day is because there was a photographer there taking pictures of the whole thing. And then you go back and you look at the pictures of your wedding day, and that is what you call an aid to memory. Second of all, if his argument is that everyone knows what the weather was like on their wedding day, then why doesn't Christine Blasey Ford remember where it happened, when it happened, what the weather was like on that day, who drove her there, who drove her home, who else was at the party? She doesn't remember anything. So if significance drives memory, then why exactly doesn't she remember anything about what happened except supposedly that Brett Kavanaugh was there? So all of this is completely self-defeating. It's just, but James Comey, acting as the supposed good guy in the room, the objective observer in the room, is already indicting Brett Kavanaugh without even recognizing that his own words basically undercut the testimony of Christine Blasey Ford. This is where we are. People who are purporting to be objective are just falsifying. People who are purporting to be objective on this, instead of saying we don't have enough information yet, already at the beginning of the week, they were saying that Kavanaugh is guilty. And that was the expectation, that Kavanaugh was going to be guilty, and that no matter what happened, we could be assured that something would arise that would stop Brett Kavanaugh's nomination. Instead, as it turns out, there's some evidence that is now arising suggesting that Christine Blasey Ford has lied and lied repeatedly. Now, these are uncorroborated allegations of lies from Christine Blasey Ford, but no more uncorroborated than Ford's testimony itself. So the same people who are saying that the testimony that's now been put forth about Christine Blasey Ford, the same people saying that that's uncorroborated stuff, are perfectly fine with her uncorroborated testimony destroying Brett Kavanaugh. So either you want evidence corroborated or you don't want evidence corroborated. You don't get to pick and choose. You don't get to say that Brett Kavanaugh should be taken down on the basis of uncorroborated allegations, but Christine Blasey Ford's testimony should be respected until it is disproved by corroborated allegations. Either corroborative evidence is necessary or corroborative evidence is not necessary. We'll get to the holes in Christine Blasey Ford's story in just 1 second. But first, let's talk about how you can save money. So these days, as you may have noticed, it's pretty tough to get people to agree on anything, but there's one thing we can all get behind, and that is saving the dough. Honey is a free shopping tool that automatically searches the internet for the best promo codes every single time you buy something online. Honey believes everyone deserves the best prices possible on all of the things they like, which is why Honey works on all your favorite sites, Amazon, eBay, J.Crew, Walmart, Best Buy, Groupon, all of them. In fact, Honey has already saved listeners of this podcast an average of $26.34. That's how many listeners of this podcast have used Honey and how much money they're saving you. Over on Amazon, I shop on Amazon all the time. The other day, I bought a series of books from Amazon, and because of Honey, I was able to get a discount on the books. Amazon is just that good, and so is Honey, right? If it weren't for Honey, I would be getting a more expensive deal. I buy stuff from Amazon all the time. Honey helps me nearly every time I shop. Honey has 10 million members, over 100,000 five-star reviews. Honey is the money-saving shopping tool everybody can agree on. Get Honey for free at joinhoney.com/Ben. That's joinhoney.com/Ben. Honey is the easiest way to save money while shopping online. Again, go to joinhoney.com/Ben to check it out. Okay, so here is the bad news for Christine Blasey Ford. There's a letter that is now out from Christine Blasey Ford's ex-boyfriend. And this letter is not good for Christine Blasey Ford. It is a statement given under penalty of perjury. So if the person's lying, then they could be brought up on charges. And here's what it says. This was turned over to Fox News. I blank am a current resident of California. I first met Christine Blasey, now Dr. Christine Blasey Ford, in 1989 or 1990 in California. From 1990 to 1991, I was just friends with Ford. From approximately 1992 to 1998, I was in a relationship with Dr. Ford. I found her truthful and maintained no animus towards her. During our time dating, Dr. Ford never brought up anything regarding her experience as a victim of sexual assault, harassment, or misconduct. Dr. Ford never mentioned Brett Kavanaugh. During some of the time we were dating, Dr. Ford lived with Monica L. McLean, who I understood to be her lifelong best friend. During that time, it was my understanding that McLean was interviewing for jobs with the FBI and U.S. Attorney's Office. I witnessed Dr. Ford help McLean prepare for a potential polygraph exam. Dr. Ford explained in detail what to expect, how polygraphs worked, and helped McLean become familiar and less nervous about the exam. Dr. Ford was able to help because of her background in psychology. Dr. Ford and I lived together while we were dating and stayed together in a long-distance relationship when Dr. Ford moved to Hawaii sometime around 1998, although I'm not sure of the particular year and it might have been a bit earlier or later. While visiting Ford in Hawaii, we traveled around the Hawaiian Islands, including one time on a propeller plane. Dr. Ford never indicated a fear of flying. To the best of my recollection, Dr. Ford never expressed a fear of closed quarters, tight spaces, or places with only one exit. I assisted Dr. Ford with finding a place to live in California. She ended up living in a very small 500 square foot house with one door. Despite trying to maintain a long-distance relationship, I ended the relationship once I discovered Dr. Ford was unfaithful while living in Hawaii. After the breakup, I took her off the credit card we shared, but nearly 1 year later, I noticed Dr. Ford had been charging the card and charged about $600 worth of merchandise. When confronted, Dr. Ford said she did not use the card, but later admitted to the use after I threatened to involve fraud prevention. I didn't speak to Ford again until about 2002, when Ford contacted me briefly. After that, I hadn't thought much about her until I saw her story in the Washington Post on Sunday, September 16, 2018. I do not want to become involved in this process or current investigation, but wanted to be truthful about what I know. So pretty damning stuff from her ex-boyfriend about Christine Blasey Ford, really undercutting her veracity. In just a second, I'll explain why. So this letter suggests a couple of reasons why Dr. Ford's veracity has been challenged. One, she never mentioned for years anything about this sexual assault and never mentioned Kavanaugh. Now, that doesn't necessarily undercut all of her credibility. According to Ford, she never said anything until 2012. But it does underscore that for a lady who says that she was very disturbed about everything that happened to her with regard to Kavanaugh, not to mention it for 6-7 years, and also to be able to travel in prop planes. Like, I'm nervous about traveling in prop planes. Like, propeller planes feel like they're going to go down at any moment. And she was traveling in prop planes in Hawaii. She was staying, apparently, according to this guy, in tiny spaces with no worries about claustrophobia. She testified in front of the Senate, all of this. Also, she testified in front of the Senate she'd never coached anybody with regard to a polygraph. Remember, she made a big deal out of taking a polygraph, and she still won't turn over her notes from her psychiatrist. She turned over her polygraph notes, but her polygraph notes raised some questions of their own, such as, in the polygraph notes, the original polygraph note said, before she took the polygraph, that she was sexually assaulted in the early 80s. She crossed out early. Nobody knows why, because supposedly the assault happened in 1982. Then she took the polygraph, and then she passed the polygraph. But she testified under oath that she did not coach anyone on a polygraph. Now, her ex-boyfriend says that's not true. Here is her testifying about this under oath.
I didn't expect it to be as long as it was going to be, so it was a little bit stressful.
Have you ever given tips or advice to somebody who was looking to take a polygraph test?
Never.
Okay, and it turns out that that is a serious question for her. Were you lying about that? So Senator Chuck Grassley has now sent a letter to the attorneys for this woman, for Christine Blasey Ford, and he asked for material evidence relevant to the allegations. He says he wants some corroborative evidence. He says he wants the notes from the therapy sessions that Dr. Ford discussed and that she turned over to the Washington Post. Right? He says that he wants copies of all video or audio recordings produced during the course of the polygraph examination of Dr. Ford, which she will not turn over. And then he says the full details of Dr. Ford's polygraph are particularly important because the Senate Judiciary Committee has received a sworn statement from a longtime boyfriend of Dr. Ford's stating that he personally witnessed Dr. Ford coaching a friend on polygraph examinations. When asked under oath in the hearing whether she'd ever given any tips or advice to someone who was planning on taking a polygraph, Dr. Ford replied, never. This statement raises specific concerns about the reliability of her polygraph examination results. The Senate therefore needs this information. So she's got a credibility problem there as well. Then she also has another credibility problem. It turns out that she said in her Senate testimony over and over again that she was in therapy in 2012 because she had a fight with her husband about building a second front door. And the reason that she wanted a second front door is because she had security concerns because she was still deeply disturbed about her alleged sexual assault at the hands of Brett Kavanaugh. Well, now it turns out that that's a really dicey story. Real Clear Investigations, Paul Sperry over at Real Clear Investigations has a piece in which he says real estate and other records undercut a key part of Christine Blasey Ford's account of why she finally came forward with charges of attempted rape against Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh after some 30 years. Ford testified last week that she had never revealed the details of the alleged attack until 2012 when she was in couples therapy with her husband. She said the memories percolated up as they revisited a disagreement they'd had over her insistence on installing a second front door when they remodeled their Palo Alto, California home. The need to explain a decision her husband didn't understand pushed her to say she wanted the door to alleviate symptoms of claustrophobia and panic attacks based on the alleged assault. She was specifically asked about this by Dianne Feinstein. Feinstein asked, is that the reason for the second front door is claustrophobia? And Ford said, correct. But documents reveal the door was installed years before as part of an addition. and has been used by renters and even a marriage counseling business. The door was not an escape route, but an entrance route, said an attorney familiar with the ongoing congressional investigation. It appears the real plan for the second front door was to rent out a separate room. Palo Alto City records show a building permit for the additional room and exterior door was issued to Ford and her husband on February 4th, 2008, more than 4 years before the May 2012 therapy session where she first identified Kavanaugh as her attacker. All the remodeling was completed by February 2010. The only additional permits issued to Ford at her Palo Alto address are for solar panels on the roof, a solar hot water system in the garage, and an electric vehicle charge station for the driveway. Dr. Randall, who is the marriage therapist, expressed concerns about her real estate transaction and prior relationship with Ford being reported. She said, "I don't want it mentioned. It's personal." Since the second front door was installed, students from local colleges have lived in the additional room with the private door. So, in other words, there are a lot of holes in her story. We don't know where. We don't know when. We don't know that she's actually claustrophobic. We certainly know that she's okay with flying for the most part, or at least she does it a fair bit. We also know that that second front door story has some holes in it, all of which suggest that maybe there are some serious questions that need to be asked about Ford's account. And this week, it seems more questions have been raised about that account than have actually been raised about Brett Kavanaugh. Now, in just a second, I'm going to get to President Trump's response on all of this, which is, peculiarly Trumpian. But first, let's talk about you saving money on stamps. So these days, you could go to the post office. Post office is a great place, a lot of great services, but you're going to spend time in the car, you're going to spend time in line. Or you could sit at your desk and get all the fantastic services of the post office, right there at your desk. And that's where Stamps.com comes in. With Stamps.com, you can access all the amazing services of the post office right from your desk 24/7 when it is convenient for you. Buy and print official U.S. postage for any letter, any package using your own computer and printer. The mail carrier picks it up. Just click, print, mail, you're done. We use it here at Daily Wire offices all the time. It saves us a bundle on not only the postage, but also it saves us an enormous amount of money on having to travel back and forth to the post office and spend the money on the gas and lose the time during the day for the folks who work here. Right now, use promo code Shapiro for a special offer from Stamps.com. It includes up to $55 of free postage, a digital scale, and a 4-week trial. Don't wait. Go to Stamps.com. Before you do anything else, click on the radio microphone at the top of the homepage. Type in Shapiro. That's Stamps.com. Enter promo code Shapiro. Go check it out right now. Stamps.com, promo code Shapiro. Okay, so President Trump has basically had it. After a couple of weeks of him maintaining silence, or at least being discreet in his opinions about this issue, him saying that he found her testimony compelling and then he found Kavanaugh's testimony compelling, the president last night decided, you know what? Done. Screw this. No more of this. So he did a rally, and at the rally, he decided to launch into Christine Blasey Ford. Now, there are some folks on the right saying that the president was not mocking Christine Blasey Ford. He's pretty clearly mocking Christine Blasey Ford. There's some folks on the left saying he was only mocking Christine Blasey Ford. No, he was also mocking the fact that her corroboration-free allegation is being taken entirely seriously despite its lack of detail. So two things can be true at once. Number one, he can be saying basically true things about the serious holes in Christine Blasey Ford's story. Two, he probably shouldn't be mocking Christine Blasey Ford. It's bad politics and it's cruel and there's no reason to do it. But here is the president going after Christine Blasey Ford in his typically entertaining fashion.
How did you get home? I don't remember. How'd you get there? I don't remember. Where is the place? I don't remember. How many years ago was it? I don't know. I don't know. What neighborhood was it in? I don't know. Where's the house? I don't know. Upstairs, downstairs, where was it? I don't know. But I had one beer. That's the only thing I remember.
Okay, so there's the president going off on her. This, of course, allows the Democrats, the reason it's bad strategy is it allows the Democrats to misdirect from Kavanaugh to Trump. Now they can act all outraged, even though there's serious questions about Christine Blasey Ford's story. And again, no corroboration. In fact, counter corroboration. Every witness she has cited has said they don't remember this party. Every single witness she has cited said they do not remember this party. There is no corroborating evidence. None. Okay, but this because Trump is mouthing off, this allows the Democrats to jump on this, which is what they do. CNN's Don Lemon says he can't resist mocking her. It's just so terrible. How could he possibly mock her? Well, I would point out, I don't like the mockery either, but I would point out the entire media have been mocking Brett Kavanaugh. SNL did an entire thing about how Brett Kavanaugh got emotional, and they had Matt Damon. You remember Matt Damon, the guy who was ripped apart by the Me Too movement 5 minutes ago. Now he's there playing the Me Too movement's go-to guy, mocking Brett Kavanaugh. So it's fine to mock Brett Kavanaugh, a guy whose life is being torn apart by what appear to be corroboration-free allegations of rape and false allegations of gang rape. That guy you can mock the crap out of. But if you mock Christine Blasey Ford, according to CNN, That's the true test of evil. Now, again, I don't think any of these folks should be mocked, but here is Don Lemon going after President Trump, which is why, the president should think twice before doing this sort of stuff in the future.
So we learned tonight that our president cannot resist mocking a woman who he had called a credible witness in front of a cheering crowd. And we're learning more tonight about Brett Kavanaugh as well. There's a letter, it was obtained by the New York Times. It was written in 1983. We have a copy here, when he was 18 years old. Kavanaugh, writing to his high school buddies, he says this, and I'm quoting, "We're loud, obnoxious drunks with prolific pukers among us."
Oh my God, he drank in high school. No, I've never heard of such a thing, except from every high school student who's ever been in high school. Really, we'll get to the shifting goalposts of the Democrats and the media in just a second, because the goalposts are moving faster than the speed of light. I didn't think it was possible. It shouldn't be, by the laws of physics, it's not possible to move faster than the speed of light, but somehow those goalposts have been shifting faster than the speed of light. We've actually gone back in time thanks to the goalpost shifting of the Democrats. It's truly incredible. We'll get to all that in just a second, but Mazie Hirono also attacking President Trump. How dare President Trump do it? Remember, Mazie Hirono is one of the people who said all men should sit down and shut up and say nothing about the Brett Kavanaugh allegations. And so she's a real great source when it comes to, I think, honesty in politics. But here she is just lamenting the state of our politics after having helped undermine it, after having clocked politics in the back of the head with a shovel and left it bleeding through the nose. Here she is talking to Anderson Cooper.
We can always count on the president to go down to the lowest common denominator, mock people, call people names, attack them. This is what he does. And the thing that Dr. Ford did remember with 100% recollection was that it was Brett Kavanaugh who attacked her.
Okay, so there we have it. And because she said it, therefore it must be true. See and believe. That's all we've got. It turns out that other allegations with regard to the nominee are also falling apart. There was an NBC story about Brett Kavanaugh. This one had to do with Deborah Ramirez, and it accused Kavanaugh of perjury. And then it turns out that he was not, in fact, guilty of perjury. So here's what NBC originally reported. They said the text between Bertram and Karen Yarosavage, both friends of Kavanaugh, suggest the nominee was personally talking with former classmates about Deborah Ramirez's story in advance of the New Yorker article that made her allegation public. Remember, Deborah Ramirez is the lady who alleged that at some frat party at Yale, Brett Kavanaugh exposed himself in front of her. In one message, Yarosavage said Kavanaugh asked her to go on record in his defense. Two other messages show communication between Kavanaugh's team and former classmates in advance of the story. The texts also demonstrate that Kavanaugh and Ramirez were more socially connected than previously understood, and that Ramirez was uncomfortable around Kavanaugh when they saw each other at a wedding 10 years after they graduated. Bertram's efforts also show that some potential witnesses have been unable to get important information to the FBI. On Monday, a senior U.S. official confirmed the White House has authorized the FBI to expand its initially limited investigation. Okay, that was the original report. Then they went back and stealth-edited, and here's what they added. In now public transcripts from an interview with the Republican Judiciary Committee staff on September 25th, 2 days after the Ramirez allegations were reported in The New Yorker, Kavanaugh claimed it was Ramirez who was calling around to classmates trying to see if they remembered it, adding, "It strikes me as you know what is going on here, when someone is calling around to try and refresh other people. Is that what's going on? What's going on with that? That doesn't sound good. It doesn't sound good to me. It doesn't sound fair. It doesn't sound proper. It sounds like an orchestrated hit to take me out." So in other words, NBC first claimed that Kavanaugh was calling around to try and quash Ramirez's story, and now it turns out that he had already testified. He had already testified that it was Ramirez who was calling around to try and bolster her story. So good job, media. Well done all the way through. There's another allegation that seems to be having some trouble. Then there's the allegation from Julie Swetnick. This, of course, coming from Michael Avenatti. It turns out that a former boyfriend of Julie Swetnick has now issued a letter to the Senate Judiciary Committee. And here's what it says. "My name is Dennis Ketterer. I'm a former weeknight meteorologist for Channel 7 in Washington, D.C. and won an Emmy in 1995. I want to preface this by saying I am neither proud nor guiltless in the actions about to be mentioned in this letter. I hope my friends, family, and church members can forgive me. I first met Julie Swetnick in 1993 at a Washington, D.C. bar near Wisconsin Circle. I was at a going-away party for Channel 7 anchor Dale Solly. I left the party to go to the bar to buy a soda. I haven't drunk alcohol since my 18th birthday. As I sat alone at the end of the bar, Julie approached me. She was alone, quite beautiful, well-dressed, and no drink in hand. Consequently, my initial thought was that she might be a high-end call girl, because at the time I weighed 350 pounds. So what would someone like her want with me? But there was no conversation about exchanging sex for money, so I decided to talk with her a few minutes. I had never been hit on in a bar before. I didn't leave with her that night, although we talked about getting together. Over the next couple of weeks, we met at what I believed and still believe was Julie's place. From the beginning, Julie knew I was married and that I was having marital issues. He says she was an opportunist. I felt she had only interest in my 350-pound self because I was on TV and well-known. Although we were not emotionally involved, there was physical contact. We never had sex, despite the fact she was very sexually aggressive with me. And then he talks about all of her fantasies, you know, sex with multiple guys, and he suggests that she is politically motivated, and he says that basically she's not to be believed. He basically calls her a sociopath. And so that's not great for her account either. And her account always was really troublesome, right? The gang rape account was always very difficult to substantiate, considering there should have been witnesses for any of that stuff. We're going to get to a final allegation that the Democrats tried to bring up last minute in just 1 second. But first, let's talk about your nutrition. Okay, right now, take a look at your superfood container. Okay, it has a supplemental facts panel. That means it is made from extract instead of real food. Well, the folks over at Brickhouse Nutrition have decided that they needed to create a real superfood that is specially designed to enhance your health and help you reach your full potential. And it's called Field of Greens. Field of Greens is the first real superfood. The difference that sets it apart can be seen on the bottle. It has a nutrition facts panel because it is indeed real food. 1 scoop of Field of Greens has a full serving of real certified vegan, vegetarian, and USDA organic fruits and vegetables, complete with antioxidants. It's a daily clean green energy that fuels your body for a healthier, happier lifestyle. Field of Greens has also become the energy choice of the USA men's Olympic wrestling team because it does indeed really work. We have folks around the office who have tried it. They say that it's really good. If you act now, get a limited time offer by texting Shapiro to 41411. Again, text Shapiro to 41411. You can't ask for better than it's the energy choice of the U.S. men's Olympic wrestling team. Are you on the Olympic men's wrestling team? I didn't think so. Go check it out right now. BrickhouseBen.com. Experience a better you tomorrow. Go check it out. BrickhouseBen.com and text Shapiro to 41411. Again, Shapiro to 41411. Get energy a much more natural way. Field of Greens has it for you. Go check it out right now. BrickhouseBen.com or Shapiro. Text it to 41411. Okay, so we're going to get to more of these allegations and the best story of the day. It really is a spectacular story. We'll get to all of that in just a second. First, you're going to have to go over to Daily Wire. This Friday, Daily Wire is launching the next chapter in Andrew Klavan's podcast series, Another Kingdom, performed by Michael Knowles. If you aren't caught up on the first season, it's available on the website. Subscribers to Daily Wire get early access to each episode, and all of it is ad-free. This season, we've added a dramatic visual component, so it really is pretty cool. If you've never listened to it, it really is great stuff, despite the fact that Michael Knowles does the reading. He does a good job with it, actually. He doesn't just sit there and stare blankly into camera, as usual. So it is worth subscribing just for it. It's really fun and really interesting. Go check it out right now at dailywire.com and subscribe. $9.99 a month. You get the rest of this show live as well. Plus, you get to send us questions in the mailbag, which we'll be doing this week. Also, when you subscribe at YouTube or iTunes, where you should leave us a review at iTunes, as I mentioned earlier, you'll also get access to our Sunday special. This week's Sunday special is a guy I've been wanting to have on for a very long time, Jonathan Haidt, professor at NYU, the author of The Righteous Mind and the new New York Times bestseller, The Coddling of the American Mind. He stopped by to talk about free speech, college campus, and all the rest.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Haidt, and I'm going to be talking with Ben on the Ben Shapiro Show Sunday Special. I'll be talking about my new book, The Coddling of the American Mind, as well as the inexplicable, puzzling events that have consumed much of campus life and national politics.
So you're going to want to check that out. By the way, if you want a preview of what exactly that's going to be like, Thursday night I'm speaking at USC. There's already talk that things are going to get maybe riotous outside and kind of insane over there. So always looking forward to that. Can't just have like a normal speech to a bunch of people. Got to always have some chaos. So we're going to do that on Thursday night. That will be lots of fun. Also, I want to thank you. If you were folks, before we sign off here, I just want to thank you. If you watched our Sunday special, our Fox News special on Sunday, really want to thank our ratings were bananas again. Really great ratings this Sunday. Actually increased over our first Sunday show. And the show this coming Sunday, is going to be awesome as well. So I encourage you to tune in over there. We are the largest, fastest growing conservative podcast in the nation.